Welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. My name is Matt Lehman, and on this stream, we build Django apps, we build Python applications, and I walk you through my process of building a real life, and there will be some triggers that fire in the background that will set their account to an active state and allow them to use the service or continue using the service beyond the trial. So that's where we're at. Before we get going, I want to do a little quick bit of cleanup. So we've got one pull request. Again, we're doing all of this live, so I even the work that is less glamorous has to be done on stream. So this is our regular auto update for pre-commit. Everything looks good, so I'm just going to hit merge and make sure that we're up to date on the latest stuff. Then we can come over to our local clone and do a git pull. That's what my GL shortcut is. So we're up to date there. And we're ready to go to our chunk of work, see where we are. So we've listed thankfully I reminded myself of what's next. And we have this checkbox here that says Matt must create a journey inbox. So last time on the stream, we were starting to get Stripe configured and we had logged in. And I was hopeful that we'd be able to show a bunch, but found out that Stripe wants you to configure their essentially a merchant account for being able to accept payment. And that merchant kind of account idea was going to go into all of my nitty-gritty details, including bank accounts and routing IDs, and there was no chance that I was going to do that live. And I've committed to doing the code live on stream, but I can't commit to doing all the configuration because that would require sharing sensitive data and secrets like my bank account, and so that's not going to make sense. So I did get this done. We now have a valid Stripe account. I should be able to log in and we can create our test keys and test this out so we can declare victory there. All right, so what was next? We have this comment that says write test for the gateway publishable key. What did I mean by that? It's been a couple of weeks since I've streamed, so I need to remind myself where we are. And maybe let's do this. Let's do a look at the git log and see what I recently merged. So we have our gateway. So that where we were? Yeah, write test for the gateway publishable key. Okay. Yep, and looking here, so we made this gateway interface that was going to be, this is our way to interact with Stripe. And the point of having a gateway was to make sure that we don't expose the whole Stripe API to the actual core of the application. So if there was some future where I needed to move off of Stripe for some reason, I could in theory do that. So it's kind of, it's unlikely, frankly, for Stripe, but as showing like how I would develop this in professional life and stuff like that, I wanted to introduce that pattern. So let's go to the gateway that exists, see what's there, and see what kind of tests we need to add. So we want to write tests for the gateway publishable key, and then we'll move on to the next thing. So we've got a payments gateway, and it's going to insert something, or it's going to pull from an API key, which is coming from DJ Stripe, and it's going to come in this particular mode, and that mode is going to be defined by the Stripe settings. Okay, very reasonable. So let's create, with our payments, this payment section is not a Django app. So it doesn't follow necessarily the same conventions as other apps, so we could treat some of it like that. So I think it makes sense to create a test directory, which is common with other Django apps, and we will put our tests in here. So first thing to do is create a new file called testgateway.py, and we'll create, I don't know that we need this in a class. We can just create our test functions right at the top scope. All right, so we want to test, actually let's have a side-by-side. So let's get the gateway up so we can see what we're testing. And so we've got our payments gateway. And we want to test the publishable key. We want to test, what is it we want to test? The fact that we can get one? Not really, I think maybe it was it a coverage thing? No, because I wouldn't have committed if it was a coverage thing. I'm trying to realize maybe we just wanted the confidence that we would get a key? I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time on this. I think it's a lesser important thing. I think what I've said with this app is that I want 100% coverage to give myself confidence that I can maintain this in the future. In theory, if this is tested by other apps, maybe that's okay. So let's think for a moment. Do we actually need to test this publishable key? Because I know that we're going to have the view, where was this? Hold on. Where were we actually using this? So what were the references? Core view. So the core view is where we're going to actually get the publishable key. And I guess backing up, what was the publishable key for? The publishable key is going to show up in the HTML page. It's going to enable the Stripe API, the API package that we're going to use in JavaScript to build an appropriate session. We have got to pass in some extra information. That's coming from this create checkout session thing that we haven't done yet. But the publishable key kind of pairs with the session ID, which is what's going to enable us to jump off into Stripe. So you have to have the publishable key so that Stripe knows which Stripe account you're trying to connect to. That's the gist of it. The fact that there's a publishable key here makes me question that, do we actually need a test? Because what would we test? What would we assert on? We could assert that there's something in the database, but is that useful? Like, that's something I'm going to have to set up in my production configuration, and a test is not going to catch that, whether or not it's there. We could test that it looks like a secret, which, like down here, we're actually pulling the key, and then we want the secret string. So I guess we could do that. Is it valuable? I don't know. We could test that it's a publishable key versus a different kind of key. All right, let's make a quick test. I think I'm overthinking this. Test publishable key, and that's a function. The gateway can return a valid publishable there's an H in there, publishable secret. That's really what, I guess, the closest thing we're trying to verify. So if let's import this. So we need from journal.payments, import the gateway, the payments gateway. Why is that not showing up? That's weird. Okay, whatever. And we need a gateway instance. There's no initializer here, so we can just do the simplest thing you would think of. And so now we have a gateway. So this is our setup portion. The thing that we want to get is a publishable key. So we'll do that, and then we'll say a gateway, and this is a property. So let's do publishable key. I'm kind of bothered that the LSP is not really helping out here, but okay, that's fine. And then we want to, I guess, assert. What are we going to assert? So the publishable key in Stripeland starts with PK, I think, because they have secret keys and publishable keys, and I think their convention. We can actually check this. Let's look at the GitHub file. I believe we needed it. Nope, we didn't need it for here. Okay, I was hoping we could leverage that. Oh well, that's fine. So let's say we're going to assert that the publishable key starts with PK, and we're going to set this so it should be self-evident, but this will give us a good starting point. Journal, what's going on here? Do I need to restart the LSP? I shouldn't have to do that. Payments gateway is an unknown import symbol? What? Oh. Because it's in the gateway. Okay. There we go. All right. It's my fault. LSP's right. So let's close that and then run this test. This test should fail because the object doesn't exist that we're querying, which I understand. So we need to create for ourselves an API key that's our test setup data. DJ Stripe doesn't give us any factories to use, so we're going to have to just construct it ourselves manually. I'm not wild about doing that when you have the need to use the object, or sorry, the manager directly in a test. I would much rather use a factory, but when we don't have the factories, I don't feel like adding a factory on behalf of DJ Stripe. That doesn't seem worth it. So let's come into, where do we need to go? Let's go back to our gateway over here, and just so we can quickly pull the right imports that we'll need. And so we'll put them there. We're going to create an API key instance. And I don't think we need to validate against it directly. I think we just need to have one. So we can do API.objects create. And the type we need is a publishable key. So that's where we're going to use the enum. API key type, publishable. And the I guess we need to set the live mode to match the settings. We're going to need settings in a minute. We're missing that import for the moment, but that's okay. And then the secret itself is where we're going to set our secret value that is what's going to match our cert. So pk some value. That should be fine. Hopefully that's all the things that we need. We also need to import the settings. So we're going to need from Django.conf import settings to round it out. And with any luck, that's all the attributes that we need for a key creation. If not, we're going to get an error that says, hey, you're missing something that's a required field. Okay, so the test passed, which it makes sense. So there's the symmetry now of we've created a thing, we can get the thing out with this property. That's what we're doing. And this is codified that we're doing it with the right modes here. So we're getting the right type, and then we're getting making sure that it's matching to the live mode that is defined. I think for the test, this live mode is going to be false, but that's okay. How do we want to set this up? So the price, we need to set it up so that when we create a session, we are using a price. And we had some examples from DJ Stripe that was kind of creating the whole thing to pay for on the fly. Do we lose that? Oh, I might have lost that file that we were looking at. Boo. You have the template here. That's useful, but it's not complete. Let's see if we can. One of the views. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So the way that this example from DJ Stripe is working is that it's building a session and setting what to put in that session very directly. And it's doing it as like, here are the items you want. But I think the session that we want to create should reference an existing price. And reference an existing subscription model. Like there are data models that we can connect to. So the flow here is we're going to create the product on the Stripe side, which would be a subscription product. And then you can attach to that different prices for it. So if you wanted to offer monthly versus annual, that's the kind of concept here. For now, I've said we're only going to offer a monthly subscription. So there's a single price that we have to configure. And I don't want to configure all of this kind of dynamically in the code as it's presented here. I want to actually have a reference to something else that we've created that we would then store in the database. So we'd set up on Stripe, we'd store in the database, and we could check it. So let's check out how we did it on my homeschool app, because I don't remember. And so we're going to look for session, because that's the thing that we're doing. And it's in the account area. Okay, so I created a gateway over here. I call it Stripe Gateway instead of Payments Gateway. We debated that last time. But if we look here, we can see the kind of parameters that are going into the session creation. The session is building all these out, and then what happens is this is the important thing that needs to be different. So with the line items is like what is your customer about to buy? And again, this Stripe version says there's nothing defined on the Stripe side. We're going to tell you what it is right in here at creation time. That's very dynamic because this could change to whatever. But in this scenario, this is like pre-setup, and it can be put in there that way. So I think there's probably a lot that we could just steal from this. There's no point in trying to recreate this. So let me think through this here. And I'm looking at this code to see like what is this extra stuff that maybe there's more that we want to take. Is trial eligible? Trial must end. Whoa. That was a weirdness I forgot about. So in reading through this here, trying to make sense of it. So it looks like my other service, but this is the homeschool app that I've built for doing homeschool planning, had this notion of trial. So you can have trials on Stripe subscriptions, or you can choose to manage that yourself in the total, managing all the state. Oh, Elias, thanks for joining us. Sorry you can't stick around, but hopefully the content will be useful for you later. So it looks like I did some work here that actually tries to handle this trial stuff. Maybe I'll just punt on that for now and keep it simple. Like we're gonna have to account for a bunch of these things, like filling in the email, these different URLs to return to. All of these things will be vital. We gotta figure out which way we want to do this. But at the base of it, we have to get to this price stuff first. And this is like assuming this is passed in. So if we could return back to where this was called, there's the price ID. So this is called with Ajax. And the way this other app is working is there are monthly and annual options presented. And so there's a post request that is sent to the backend that provides the price that then is folded in. But that price comes from somewhere. It's rendered on the page. So it might be, and here it is. You can see here we added, so I did some lookup stuff and added it to the gateway. And then rendered that as one of these two different price IDs. So if we go to this definition, we can see what's happening here. And we have this price object that we are then getting from the database. And this is because DJ Stripe, with some configuration, you can make a call and it will start syncing data. So there's a webhook connected that DJ Stripe uses, and anytime an event is happening on the Stripe side, the webhook will be notified of here's the data. So that's one way to get the price. If I've, like we're about to do, we'll create a price object in advance, like on the Stripe side, but this hasn't been deployed yet, then what I can do is run a management command, which will actually pull down any relevant data. So we can get the price in multiple ways. Also, from our unit testing point of view, we can just create a price object that is going to match. And it looks like I gave it a very clear name that could be consistent. So this was kind of the key. And if we get right down to it, go all the way back to the settings, then you can see that I've added some kind of nicknames. So I wanted to give myself some flexibility in the future if I ever needed to change pricing. So I created like a version 1. Now, on that other service, I've never changed pricing, so it's always remained at version 1. But I think it's just kind of wise to bake in that, hey, you might want to play with pricing in the future. And if you can consider versioning from the beginning, you'll probably be better off. Okay. So let's follow suit with some of this. Let's make some assumptions. Make an assumption that we are going to create a price for the product on using the Stripe dashboard, and that we'll be able to reference it with what Stripe I guess calls nicknames, which is a shorthand for rather than reference it by the ID, reference it by the name that you care about. So let's start. So that I guess that ultimately what the thing we want to have is we would like to have the for now we can for now we'll do this. We'll do we want the price ID. Let's just keep it super simple. I was going to say monthly, but if I'm only going to offer a single price, there's no reason to do anything more than this. I believe the price itself is a string identifier, so we'll annotate that like so. And for now, we'll just say price ID, just so that the type checker doesn't yell at us. So we're going to fill this in. Fill in. And let's back up to what we want to be there. So I want to be able to get a price based off of a setting. And I think the second thing, it had to have two things. It was based off of the setting and the live mode. So we've got a live mode there, and we'll use that. We'll come over here. We'll go to our, I think we're done with this test case, so we'll go back to the settings. And we need to put this somewhere, but do we put this with Stripe or do we make our own section? This doesn't feel, well, okay. So we have Stripe settings, we have DJ Stripe settings, and now we're talking about app-specific settings that relate to payment. But it's not technically like DJ Stripe. So this is like the start of my third-party stuff, and I'm debating if I want to put this here or have it separate from my apps. All these other things are also specific to third-party. All right, let's just keep it together. That'll keep it simple for now. And we want, we'll call it the price nickname. Sure, that's the simplest thing I can think of. So the price nickname is going to be a constant, and we'll just call it monthly v1, just like I did with the homeschool application. So that's going to be our nickname. Then we can do over here. We've got our settings, and we want to get the we want a price. We'll get that from DJ Stripe models, and we'll do objects get, and then I think we need the live mode, which is going to be settings.stripe live mode, just like the other one. If I could type it. And then we also need the nickname. I think it was nickname. Yeah, nickname. Which will be settings, price, nickname. And we can close this and get rid of these things. Okay. Let's go back to our test gateway and test this thing too. And it's going to be a very similar test to this, but we'll just write it out again. So test the price ID, the gateway can return a valid price ID, and okay, some of this doesn't matter. Publishable key, we'll switch it with price ID, and we don't need to check with PK. I don't actually know what price we'll start it with, so we'll just pretend it starts with price. I know that's probably wrong, but it doesn't, again, not important that we get that right. And for here, we can do the creation of the nickname. Ooh, can we create the ID? Do we do the ID directly? And I'm noticing that also we're not returning the string. Oh, check that out. We're returning the price object here. Wow, that seems like a bug. What did I do? Oh, and then I did an ID reference. Oh, interesting. Okay, okay. Maybe that's better to hand the price around rather than the ID. Okay, I'm gonna go with that. We'll just call it the price. And this is no longer a string representation, it's a price. And then on this side, we'll have nickname equal settings dot price nickname. The live mode will be settings dot Stripe live mode, and close that off. Delete that. Yeah, this test feels kind of dumb to me, frankly, but it does have completeness to it. We can actually even check. We know the literal value here, so it's going to be equal to the settings price nickname. So we're essentially just ensuring that this is like the pass-through that we expect. Whoops. Oh, we got to set the active attribute to it. Okay. Active, true. Yeah, so here's, I guess actually this is a good time to point out why I don't like using managers. So the good part about factories, the factories that we've used and Factory Boy configuration, is that you avoid all of this garbage. Like, we're having to create an object, and our test doesn't care at all about whether it's active and what the product ID is. None of that junk matters for the test. The test really cares, were we able to get and show that we have the right price? But instead, because we have to use the manager directly, we have to add all these other things just to create a valid instance. So with a factory version, like if I bring up let's say I bring up the accounts test views, and that's not a good example, the test models. So here we've got the factory, and what's nice about a factory is that If there are other fields that are required for an account, the factory takes care of those. If I went to the definition here, you can see that the factory requires a user. But over in the test, I did not have to specify the user. I could leave that out, and it's totally fine. And then I could even assert that it's not empty, that it's not none, and that's all good because the factory built that for us. So factories are much more declarative about what you care about, and that I find is a super important quality of them. So it's pretty annoying here that we need to make this stuff that has a product ID or whatever. So we have to add, we need to add a product ID. So it's just noise from my point of view. Like, it's valid long term. You need it for the actual operation of a price. That's fine. But we have to fill it in with fake values just to get us going. And we're not even guaranteed to be done. Wow. And it gets even more complicated. The row in table price with primary key 1. All right, so the first one that we added as an invalid foreign key contains a value fake product ID that does not have a corresponding value in the DJ product ID. All right, how did I do this over here? Because I dealt with this. Did I make factories for these things? I did. Oh my word. So annoying. I probably hit the same problem where I needed to have some kind of product. Yep. I had to back up and make a product factory. Ugh, gross. All right, well, let's do it. Yep, all right. I'm gonna take these two factories. I'm just gonna steal them because why not? And maybe ultimately this is what we want anyway, because it was gonna clean up the test. So let's create factories. Whoops. Let's paste. I didn't paste this right, or didn't copy this right. Okay, we've got our product factory. Got the, so we know we need from DJ Stripe models import the price and the product. And then we also need import factory. Okay, so now we should be getting valid price IDs. We could override those as necessary. We've got these other fields that are set automatically for us. We can come back to our gateway here. We could also do this with the API key, but it was easy, and I don't really feel like doing that. So let's do this. Let's do from journal, payments, tests, factories, import price factory. What's it complaining about? Journals, payments, test, factories. Did I not put that in the right file or in the right location? There it is. Ah, okay. Just LSP yelling at me for when it's not my fault. And then, so what we want to do is change this now. So instead of using price objects create, we could do a price factory like that. And then hopefully, in fact, for our testing, it should be false. So we could be able to get rid of all of these. So really what we want is a nickname that we can match up. That's what we really care about in this thing, that our price that we get matches the nickname that we have from the settings. And then we can drop that import and then run the tests. Cool. So little bit of extra configuration, but I was able to cheat and steal from another project, which is cool. All right, so now we have a price, or we have the ability to get a price. And we know one of the nicer things about this flow that we're doing here is in my other flow, I had to give the users the option of having monthly or annual. And we're saying, no, you don't have to do that anymore. When we create a session here, when we create the Stripe session, instead of using like any of this mode, and instead of having to pick, as we did here, we're just going to create like this. We don't need to pass in a price ID. Yeah. So John, I was actually chatting with my spouse this evening at dinner, talking about how, man, I wish I'd done the work to like make this reusable. So, and what is it? What's the project? There's a Django project out there. It's not Django Unicorn. Something else. Is it Django Unicorn? That's what I'm thinking of. No. This is a thing, but this wasn't the thing. There's somebody does a bootstrap thing, and I'm blanking out on the gentleman's name who does it, where if you want to get your app going quickly, you trade off some cost for your time, and there's becoming more and more appealing. Like if I do this a third time, maybe I'll just shell out $500 or whatever it is to actually start and jump right into the app that I'd be building. Thankfully, I'm not doing that this time. But if you're applying once, twice refactor is the next time on this stream. We're on time number 2 now. Or I'm pretending that's not really true, because in reality, this is the 3rd app that I'm working through on the stream. But I'm hoping this is the 2nd successful, or the app that's actually getting used. The other one, the first one that I did on stream, if you go way back, was my college conductor startup project, but it never had customers. So, yeah. Anyway, getting too much into the history there. So we need to get our session created. We can pull our price directly from the gateway. In fact, does it need to be even public? Yeah, it'll need to be public because we're going to want to show the price later. And the session attributes, like, do we want, like, I think the optimal flow here is going to be something like call the gateway and get a session ID back and pass that back. I think that's the real thing. Right. Yeah. So if I was to stub it in now, I'd say gateway equals the payments gateway, and then what will this be? Session ID gateway dot create session, something like that. Is that what I called it before? Create checkout session. Okay. Stick with the name. What was I passing into the other one? Passing the price ID and account. Okay. But this is the difference, I think, that we said for this, is that the homeschool app, and I apologize, I'm jumping around a lot. I realize that as I'm doing this, I'm kind of all over the place. This is, I can't really justify myself. So I hope you're able to keep up with some amount of visibility, but I realize it's jumpy. And so the reason I had to pass in an account is because we hooked up our subscriber model to the account. I don't think I did that this time. I think we just said, hey, we're going to use the user model. that right? Yeah, we didn't configure that. And I believe the default is to use the user model. Now I'm doubting myself. DJ Stripe. Oh, boo. DJ, there it is. Where'd it go? Configuration. Now, y'all, come on. Where's the configuration reference? Surely there's more than this. I'm not seeing it. It's a problem with streaming. Like, my ability to go read in detail goes out the window. Integrating, blah, blah, blah. Versions, usage, webhook, subscribing. Distributing, reference, settings. There we go. And there it is. So the subscriber model, that's what we have over here. We set to something different. And since we're not setting that here, it means that we by default are falling back to Django's auth user model, which is an indirection. So if Django lets you customize the user model, so you can read this as the shoot, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the third-party package. The auth system, the standard user you'd get. So what we need to pass into our version of the gateway is going to be the user. So we would do request.user, which is why we need to have this authenticated later. It needs to be a real user. We can't do this anonymously. All auth, yeah, we have all auth for the user name, like the email flow, but I'm not getting my user model from all auth. So if we have this and it returns a session ID, then we can pump it into here as session ID. That's really where we're getting to here. So let's go ahead and just plumb this in. Journal. And I'm playing sort of fast and loose with tests and stuff. Which don't feel great about, to be honest. But it's okay. Zephyr, what do I use for environment variables? I use, shoot, what's it called? Pyenv? Nope, that's something else. It's on that list somewhere. Django Environ, that's what I'm using. Which has the ability to do .env kind of stuff. We are using an env file for this configuration. So, okay, it's rightfully complaining that this doesn't exist because it doesn't. So we can, over here, now we've got our properties. And I never remember or never am consistent about where I put properties. Like, so with a class, you have class attributes. So I definitely put, like, if it was a class attribute up here, I would certainly keep that at the top. But then you put methods and then properties. I think I'm more inclined to put properties first because they feel like attributes. They feel kind of classy that way. And then I can put actual methods. We'll put our method here, which will be create checkout session, which will be a method, so it needs self. It's going to take a user, and it'll take the user class from Django auth models. There's probably, okay. If you really want to get crazy with it, I had a project that I did this with before. I don't like it, but there's another way to do this. And the other way to do this is you can do from Django contrib auth import get user model. So you can do this function, and then you can then call this get user model like that, and have an attribute that you have, like a 1-2 import process. I grew to really not like this method, but it's necessary if you're trying to make like a Python package where you don't necessarily know, is it this user model or is it somebody else's? Like, because of that whole abstract user model thing where you can define your own user model, then you can get, like, it could be different user models. But since this is my app, and I've from the get-go said I'm going to use the standard user model and I'm not going to mess with any abstract or customizing the model, this method I find to be complete overkill, and it confuses like implementer. Like there's problems with it, or there were problems in the past of it. Like it couldn't quite get the typing information because Django isn't typed, so it just ends up being painful. So if you can get away with your app of just using user and then just import the model directly, it's better in my experience. Okay, so I'm going to get off my soapbox there. And then we want to return a session ID as our string here, and then let's see, create a Stripe checkout session. A terrible, well, it's a doc string that just repeats what I'm doing. But doesn't it build in future dev? In theory, so okay. I hear you, John. I think I'm going to say no. In that I had a project where we switched from the user model and we switched to our own user model. But I'm not convinced that having your own user model is actually a good thing. And I'm not in small company on this point of view. I'm like, if you listen to Django chat, Carlton Gibson is also in this same universe where he's like, and I think even Will Vincent has this point of view where switching your user model hasn't actually turned out to be a boon for Django. We wanted to do, like, I guess the community wanted to do it to maximize flexibility. So if you wanted to add your own attributes, you could do that. But I was actually listening to a recent Django chat, and Carlton said something to the effect of we should really keep the user focused purely on authentication. This is a tool for doing authentication. So if you have, you can a user represents a person, that's totally reasonable. But if you have other information about that person that is important, you could keep it on something like a profile class, or that has something that is a one-to-one foreign key to the user. And that's useful because if you think about it, let's say I don't know, I'm going to make up a silly example. Let's say you added a profile that they wanted to track a user's middle name. Or not everybody has middle names. So what's it called when you have like a doctor or Mr.? There's a I'm drawing a blank on that. Superlative? That's not what it is. Anyway, that concept where you have like a prefix to what you should be referred to as. But maybe most of the pages most of the views in your app never need to reference that this is Dr. Jones or Dr. Samuda. Like that's not necessary. And so you could like defer that and leave it on the profile and only access it when you need it. But you need authentication on basically every view. Like, of course, it's not on unauthenticated views, but if you left the user to its one very narrow job and left this other stuff to another kind of object, then you make a much cleaner world for authentication. You also would make the whole Django package ecosystem way simpler. If we got rid of completely the notion of honorific, that's probably it. If we got rid of the notion of we can customize the user model, then all of this stuff about get user model and different apps that have to customize this in different ways, now all goes away. Everybody would anchor to we use user, that's it, end of story. And I think it'd be okay. Like I think it would turn out fine. That's not the world we live in, but I'm going to in my app world, I'm never going to use a different kind, and I don't see myself using a different kind. I would always reach for something like a profile if I wanted to add to it. So I think it's okay for me to just kind of universally reference user here. That's my justification anyway. Yeah, so Zephyr, I agree with you, and I should be very clear. Like, I think Homeschool used it. I think so. Here's the Homeschool app. The auth, like I've got my own auth user model. I created a user's app and had it. But if we go to that user's app, like I think it has one property on it, or it's barely used. So I never, and this app's been live for 3 years, and it was just a convenient way to like attach stuff to it, which is kind of dumb. Like this was, I could have done this in other ways, where I could have said something like, I just could have done this in other ways. We don't need to go in the details of this. I didn't actually add any new attributes or columns for it. I always was putting them somewhere else, and it worked out fine. So, and then and I've actually seen the opposite happen, where there's this danger of user is such a convenient place to attach stuff to. So if you do that, you are constantly fighting the urge to let me make foreign keys to a user, and then I'm going to use the related manager to always reference the objects that I want. It's convenient, but then like it becomes everything funnels into user, and it becomes what is referred to as a god class, right? Like it's just too powerful. There's not enough separation of concerns, and then you end up with this like kind of a bit of a mess, in my opinion. So if you have abstract user models, clearly I have too, and my own opinions have evolved over time, and I don't think anybody's a bad person for wanting to use abstract user model. They could come to a different point of view than I have, but this has been my experience. Okay, Abe, I'm looking at your question here. Let me read it. Django project uses Stripe Connect. Yeah, so I think I covered this in a previous stream on your question about like what's the benefit of DJ Stripe. DJ Stripe tries to take your Stripe data and turn it into models that you can have in your own database. So the advantage here is that I get my actual price information. So if I have this ID that I'm linking to, and I can just pull it, then that gets put into my database. And when I reference it, then I can get out the price that I care about, get out the display price that I want to put in the future, and I don't have to I have to sync up a name, which I'm more comfortable with than trying to get price information. Now, maybe that's not justified. Like I could see a case where somebody could say like, "Well, that's stupid. You could just make your prices match." But I think I've found some value in it there. There's other stuff that DJ Stripe adds of the kind of webhooks and like syncing your API keys that, I don't know, in total I found pretty useful overall. So that's my point of view. Gabriel. Depends on your goals, Gabriel. I think that totally reasonable to want to learn deeply about Django. Oh, you're welcome, Abe. Or not just Django, about Python. Like, you would be a better developer if you understood data structures binary algorithms, all that sort of stuff. I think you could be a super effective developer without understanding it. Like my average day-to-day life, even though I understand how a binary tree works, do I need to? Nah. It's just, it rounds out, I think it rounds out like maybe your toolbox for the more you expose yourselves to different concepts, the more it gives you the ability to think critically about what would I apply to a different situation. I think a lot of the stuff that we build, though, frankly, does not require that. There's no rocket science here. I think you were pulling stuff out of a database. We're giving it good names. So better maybe is like spend time with a thesaurus and jokingly that said that some of the hard problems in computer science are cache invalidation and naming things, and that's that was said sort of in jest, but there's at some level there's truth to it. Like we write code to make computers do what we want, but we also write code to make sure that we can understand it ourselves or that our teammates can understand it. And I think that's a more important skill, is becoming a clear communicator in the code that you're writing. So do with that what you will. You could get some value out of going down the very comp sci route, and it may be good for you. Or you could just get more reps in actually building apps. It depends on what your goals are. Okay, let's get back to it. So we know that we need to create a session. And just as a reminder, so we've been jumping around like all over the place this evening, but why are we creating a session? So one of our templates is on the, where did I put it? It's on the index page? Yeah. So here's our index page template where we're going to have the button that actually like sends you over to Stripe. And we're going to have to put this in multiple places later, so we'll pull this out. But you can see that we've got this monthly price that is part of the index view. And our index view itself, so if we go to the core view, we haven't even put that in yet, so we might even change this. Let's go ahead and change it. Let's change it to price, because we're only going to have one for now. We'll pass in the price object that we're going to get from the gateway. And so this stuff will be created. Do I have a site about learning Python and Django? I don't have something on learning Python. But there are great tools out there. Here's one that I'm using with my own kids. So I have two kids. They are 11 and 9, and this is Exercism. Exercism can help you learn all kinds of different languages, Python included. And what I like about Exercism, let me bring up the Python track, see how much I can show you. Cool. So, they gonna show the tree? Yeah, cool. So Exercism has a model of, and it's not super easy, especially if you have no one to guide you. This will be a little bit challenging, but good. Challenge is good. But they have a tree of concepts here. And the way it works is everything is a concept that you learn, and then you've got an exercise to pair with it. Or you have multiple exercises. So you can kind of work down this tree of knowledge that has been crafted by people that care deeply about this. And you can build up your knowledge of a language. And the exercises are pretty easy. Like all these ones that have a little icon here for the first time you're exposed to something, they're fairly easy, but they do get harder from top to bottom. Like the stuff way up here at basics is going to be easier than the first exercise here at the bottom with generators, because naturally you can't even get here until you've gone through all these other things above. So I've been working through this with my son, who's my older child. We're actually right here. It's taken him like a good year to go through it, but we're only doing this like once a week. But what I like about the exercises here, let's click on one, see how deep we can get in here without being logged in. Okay, it's going slowly for some reason. I don't know if it's me or the site. It'll walk you through what the exercise is, but very cool about it is that it has tools that you can install that will let you download the code, and they kind of give you the skeleton of here's your function that you have to complete, here's your input parameters, and you have to write the implementation of the function. And then they include tests with it, automated tests that can give you, I got it right or I got it wrong. And that's really cool for learning. So I found that feedback loop of actually like I get to write code and then run it and see if I'm on target or not is amazingly valuable because you get the hands-on experience of running it in your editor with your own setup, and it's just a really good feedback loop. I did this myself for my company uses Go, and I had not done Go professionally. I kind of dabbled with it when it first came out many years ago, but I'd not done it. And I took myself through the Go track. I probably got 30% of the way through, and then the rest was carried over to work. But it cemented for me all of the core fundamental things that I needed to know. So it was really useful. What rule? Okay, so Abe, looking at your question, when do I separate for new Django apps? I don't know. I do it when it makes sense. So I think about bounded contexts. If you want something to, if you need something to go latch onto, you're welcome, Gabriel. If you need something to latch onto, there's DDD, that stands for Domain Driven Design. That's a whole body of knowledge about, it's not Django specific, it's just software design specific, and how should you think about system design. I can't say that I actively bring domain-driven design to this project, but I think I've internalized enough of that with enough study over the years that I can kind of recognize like, oh, this feels related, so I'm going to keep this together. So I look for, I guess in my head, I look for clustering of concepts that make sense. I don't split on like all of my views are over here and all of my models are over here. Like that's not helpful. I know there are some frameworks that start you in that way as an easy way to start. Django is not one of those things. It starts you with the kind of the harder mindset of you have to think about apps. On balance, if you are getting going and you don't know where you need to put stuff yet, one pattern that I have seen and I've seen some people advocate for is having a core app. So like I've created some other apps here, but they were after I knew what I wanted to do. Like the entries app was specific to my app as like the very fundamental thing. But you know, where do you put your about page? Where do you put your privacy page and all these other bits? You can kind of have, if you start with one core app and you're willing to recognize that this is a temporary home for stuff and you can move it out later, that's what I would lean into. Now, having said that though, notice there are no models. So it's a different consideration for database stuff. It's a different consideration because while you can move models between apps in Django, it's kind of annoying. So because what happens when you have a model is the database table name is tied to the app that you put it in. And so as soon as you decide to move a model somewhere else, you have to your choices are either copy data to a new table, which is maybe not, I don't think you'd want to actually do that, or you have to do some configuration in your model to say, to keep the table name from where it was created. It's just a class attribute setting, but it's just like a little annoying bits of configuration to get right, and like moving migrations, and there's a bit of like migration table stuff to clean up. There's I want to say some of the content types system gets messed up if you move models. There's bits out there that make that irritating. So use a core app for your common stuff where you don't have a good home for it, but try to spend a little bit of camp out on, I have to have a table for my app to do something. let me think that through. Where would be a good home up for it? And bundle it, like lean into your main concept. Like this app is about journaling, right? So everything is a journal entry. So this entries app, I think there's just, well, there's two models in here right now, but the main model, the name of the app was around this core model that's really driving everything. So that's how I think through at a basic level. I don't without going into much more detail. All right, cookie cutter and Two Scoops. I like the Two Scoops book. They have a very particular style, though. So if you like their advice, it's not a harmful style. I do worry that you can get a little. Well, let me phrase it with a different language. I've seen Ruby projects where Ruby really prides itself on making these small classes, and I've dabbled with some of these Rails projects that are like open source. You can go download somebody's Rails project, and I think there gets a point which there's a trade-off between, like, you don't want a file that is 10,000 lines long. It's hard to think about. It's hard to reason about. But also, if you have 20 files that are all 10 lines long, that is equally hard to reason about because you're jumping around too much. And like, you have to start somewhere. So like, this file is only 12 lines and only has one thing in it right now. But that's part of the Django app structure, is like to start that way. So I have a preference towards trying to keep things a little bit more condensed at first until I've built up some knowledge about what is the thing I'm building. And then I'm not afraid to say, okay, after when something's starting to feel too large, then I can break out chunks. But my boundary for what that level of comfort is certainly higher than the average Ruby class that I've seen, like where they're like, 30 lines is too long, or that I've seen some really crazy stuff crazy to me, that seems excessive. So I would say do enough that keeps stuff together so that you can have a concrete understanding of it at one go, and just kind of scan through a file and not have to jump around a bunch of places and look at a bunch of different files. Sort of how I think about through some of the management of that. I'm not saying that Two Scoops of Django does suggest the super short things. I'm just trying to contextualize it in a different language, so I'm not throwing any particular shade on people. But watch out for apps that only have like a single model in them. That's probably anemic. So you want to have some kind of clustering. Like, I knew, for example, that this entries app, there's a symmetry here of like, the way this app works is you get prompted every day with an email that gets sent to you in your inbox if you're a user, and that's the prompt. And then there's the response that goes with it. That's the entry, and those things pair together, which is why I put them in this particular model here, or in models file. Okay, let's focus. Let's get back to the actual checkout session stuff and see how much we can do. So we've got, what do we have? So this thing is creating our session. All right, I think we can actually rip out a bunch of this stuff. So what's happening here is it's calling create checkout session, and it's posting with a price ID. But we've just established there's only going to be one price for this project. So I don't think we even need a body here. In fact, this could be a get. No, because gets are meant to be idempotent on the server side. So you don't want to use them when things are going to like change. And every time we call this, we're going to create a new session. So it's probably appropriate to still continue to use the post, but I think we can get rid of the body part of this, which is going to be that portion. Did I get that right? Did I delete too much stuff? Yeah, okay, there's a stringify. Yeah. Let's get rid of this, and then we've got the comma there. And then if we do that, how did this work? We haven't even called this yet. So in my other app, I have basically an on-click handler that passes in this price ID that was like hard-coded in the template. But we just said that we don't need that. So we can get rid of this price and just have the publishable key. And then our function also, well, okay, I see how it's called now. We were doing, all right. There's a balance here of like, is there a future where I'm going to have an annual price and I'm going to want to put this stuff back? Do I want to plumb all of this through right now? So here's the flow we'd be talking about. Like those, this is the view that pairs. So when we call this URL, this fetch, it's coming to this view. And so we're saying there's two things we could do. Like in this session, I could either get the price here. So I could call self.price, like right here, and just have it be an internal detail to the gateway, which is where I was starting to go. Or I could go ahead and in the index, like put this price. So we in our core views, put the price right here. And then like have it be something that's rendered so that when we ultimately call this function that we pass in the price, it probably sets us up a little bit better because it's going to pass the price along to the view. Then we can parse it out and pass to the session, and then we wouldn't have to put it in the gateway directly here. Instead, we could have the price ID be price ID string like that. It's a little bit roundabout, but I think it's probably worth, because I do ultimately want to have an annual option for people. That's the important determining factor here. Is like, if I was never going to offer this, it was only going to be monthly in the future, then this would be wasted work, right? But this is worth enough in my mind that I'm okay with this. So here we can pass in, we need the price ID, which means we're going to need to pull out the price from the body of the response. So let's go to the view. That's where I did it. Yeah. Oh. Okay. So this code is still correct over here in that what it's going to stringify as JSON is the actual price ID that we're getting from Stripe, along with the price underscore ID pattern. And then we've got this on the side over here that's ready to parse it out from the body. So I guess we should make a to-do ensure that it's a post request. That'll be important. We don't want to accept any other type of request here. Otherwise the body's going to blow up in our face, and I don't need errors for that. Oh, good. I even have a to-do. Handle the request body. Pull from homeschool. I just did that. Cool. So that'll get us the session that returns here. So when we get back to our JavaScript code, we've got the publishable key there. Let's do this. We can do pass in the price as the context, and that's coming from the gateway. Like that. So, all right, let's go top to bottom here. Now our code will have a price ID, which is getting from the template context. It's going to have the publishable key, which is also getting from the template context. Then we've got our function that it will accept a price ID. This function is only going to be called in this chunk of code right here in this event listener. and we're going to pass this in manually. That's not monthly price. It needs to change to price. So for now, it's going to be basically hard-coded. So that will call this checkout session thing. That will get the session ID ultimately, which is what we're returning here in this JSON response. So it's a session ID. And then the final bit of the flow is that's going to pass to Stripe, and it's going to pass in the session ID and the data session ID, which will then do the redirect onto Stripe. I know it's a bit convoluted. Sorry if that's hard to follow. That's the truth of it, though. Oh, John, I realized I missed your comment. You like ERDs and UMLs? I kind of waver about, are they useful? Maybe this might be a one where a sequence diagram could be useful to illustrate this. But I think I've already talked it through enough that if I need it, I go back and forth on how much should I document something where I'm building it myself and I should be able to know it myself. Although this one confused me enough that it might be worth it. Zephyr, this is all one NeoVim session. So I make heavy use of splits. So let me talk. So when I do, I have what is this tool? Telescope. Telescope is something that I can use for fuzzy finding. So I can do a quick command to bring up all of my files that are in my repository, and I can find the file, and then I can do a Control X or a Control V tells me which direction of a split I want to do. So let's say, this is a test views. If I want to do a horizontal split, I can do Control X, and now I've got two things. I'm navigating between them. I've mapped leader, H, J, K, and L to the different splits so that I can quickly jump from here to here to here to here. That's super handy. The other way that you'd have to do this, if you didn't map this with a leader, you'd have to do Control W and then the direction. H, J, K, L is how you get to the splits. I can show very briefly my Vim RC where I have this. I think I can. Where are my leader commands? There we go. Nope, that's not it. Yeah. So here are my leader commands, my key maps for. So I'm in normal mode. That's what the N means. And then leader, H, J, K, and L is literally a translation to Control W, H, J, K, and L. So that makes it's two keystrokes to go any direction I want. So that's how I do that quickly. And then anytime I could do I try and keep, I try to rarely go beyond 4. That's about the limit of my ability to navigate and comprehend. I could start doing crazy stuff here. So let's say I'm in this file down here and I want to open a different test file or the project testing settings, and I want to do a vertical split here. So now I've done it, but it just shifted a bunch of stuff around. My window sizing got weird. If I close this, I guess it returns it, but it's hard for me to track beyond that. So I will go up to 4 typically. There's rare occasions where I might do a 5th, but then I don't think I ever do it with a vertical split. I would do if I was at the same thing, I'd do a horizontal split. So this is 5, but this is enough for me to see enough there. The other reason I wouldn't do a vertical split here is in that situation, when I did the vertical split, the width of this window is now too narrow. So the advantage of, I've kind of set up my whole window experience so that the max width overall is, tend to keep everything, like you can see, I was about to point to my screen like you could see it. Look at the screen, and you can see on the screen I've got like a dark gray line. Here's an example. I'll be able to get to it from here. Right at, I put it right at column 80, or this is 81. So everything below this is 80 and over. So I've got a little bit of extra space. Python or Black, and now Rough, I guess, likes to do line wraps at 88. So I'm right on that boundary. And so if I keep it a 4, then basically I should be able to see all of my code, assuming it's formatted properly, in here. But then once I switch to like 3 things in a row, then I've broken that promise and it's too narrow, and I start to get weird line wraps and stuff. There's a little bit of insight into my editor stuff. Abe, I don't have a hard and fast rule for it. When I create a many-to-many, I think I like to think about, do I know of attributes that I would need the join table for? Like if it's a scenario where I'm pretty confident that I will never need that to reference that intermediate table, like I just need that many-to-many relationship, and I don't care about extra data that is from the union of those two things, then I'm going to use the default many-to-many that they build in. If I, on the other hand, know that this pair and this pair, when they're together in the many-many, has extra columns that we're going to need, then naturally I'm going to add the explicit join table. Okay, so where are we at? I kind of spoke through the flow. I think all the pieces are in place, maybe except for the actual session creation, right? And where can we get to for the end of this stream? I probably get another half hour, 45 minutes in me, something like that. So we now have this ability to get the monthly price. We need to do this. We need to launch into the Stripe session. I love to be able to like get that configured. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, I've done this part where I've created my Journey Inbox account in Stripe. So I can get the test keys plugged in into this, and conceivably we could do this whole end-to-end flow, go over to Stripe, create the price, run the command that pulls the price down to my local database, get it fired up and going. That would be awesome. And then, but like I've done a bunch of code tonight that I've just kind of pulled from various places, and I don't have any tests for it. So write more tests. That's what I'm going to say to that. Yeah, I will definitely git commit this evening. I like to have my git commit be in a state where it's publishable. So like I have a feeling right now if I run the test suite, we'll either outright get failures because, yeah, we're going to outright get failures because we don't have certain prices in places. So the index views are going to break. We're going to miss a bunch of coverage. Yeah. This is not a shocker that we drop coverage. This is a cleanup phase though. So I don't want to do this yet. I'd love to get to that, like the finish screen for us this evening is like, can we get to that Stripe redirect page and see, even if it's not like tailored for our usage yet, can we see it? Abe, I'm going to go with the hosted page this time. I'd considered the embed, but there wasn't enough to prove that it would be valuable to my circumstance, so I think I'm just going to keep it simple and just send them right to the redirect page. All right, so what do we need? Why? Yeah, it seemed like less work. I don't know, maybe that's my own bias, like I've done it before and then it didn't seem like it was adding the value, or I didn't know what value it would add to my experience, where if I have enough branding on the redirect page, I think users could be okay with it. I don't think it's a big part of the experience that was worth optimizing for. All right, so we've got our activate button. It's going to get clicked. It's going to fire this stuff. we're going to go to the session. Why don't we, how about we try it? Let's see like what we're going to need. Let's start chipping away at the actual, yeah, let's start chipping away at this. So we've got our virtual environment going. Bring that up. We need to run localhost. Are we back on 5,000? Yeah. I still to this day don't know why it switched to 5001 on me. I don't know how that port got taken up. All right, cool. So right from the get-go, we're missing a price. So we need to seed our database with that. Okay, so backing up from that, we have two options. We could go to the admin, create a fake price, but that doesn't get us closer to the session thing. Or we go to Stripe and get prices set up and run the configuration. So what we're going to show, let me show what I'm talking about. So if I run the manage command and run help on it, there is, here are the DJ Stripe commands. And I believe this is the one we want. Sync models. So we're going to pull from test data, so it shouldn't be a lot of data. And it's not like we don't have any real customers yet, so that's not a big deal. But in the future, even if we did sync, it would only pull from test stuff because it goes based on live mode, I believe. It should. I'd be disappointed. Actually, let's check it out. Let's do manage DJ Stripe sync model. There's also ways to filter it down of maybe I only want some of that. Yeah, John, I think I think you're right. I think I'm not good enough with my networking tool knowledge of like what utilities could have told me. I think I tried to do some like netstat kind of stuff and looking for, is there something talking on port 5000? And I couldn't find it. That's what I was puzzled about. But again, I didn't look super hard. I kind of like walked away. I was like, that's good enough. But I have a feeling one of my reboots or some update finally kicked off whatever was using port 5000. All right, so we have here this sync models command. We can pass in model names. And the reason I brought this up is I want to see, does it only focus on the settings? And I mean, it's got to, right? Like it only knows what settings it has. So as long as we are in the testing mode, which I can make sure is configured, it should only pull from the non-live pull, I would think. The other option that it could do, which would be kind of stupid in my mind, is like it pulls everything, whether you want it or not, which I don't know why it would do that. And I don't see any clear thing saying what it's going to pull. It just says it's going to pull from those API keys. All right, let's get signed up with or signed into Stripe. I'm going to need my two-factor auth here, and I'm going to have to go in secret mode, of course, because I can't let you all see my login stuff. But I'll talk you through it. So secrets. Still got to fix that so you can still see my video. There's no reason to hide me. I don't need a cooler background. But going to stripe.com, clicking on the link in the corner that says dashboard, which is taking me to the login page. And I got to unlock my password manager. It's got my Stripe account up, logging in, and waiting for that. I must have logged in not long ago enough because it didn't ask me for my 2FA again. That's interesting. All right, I'm going to put it on test mode. Make sure there's nothing sensitive here that I can't show. This is one of those things where I'm going to have to jump back and forth before I click pages, like pre-flight. Am I going to show off any keys? But looks like Stripe's been pretty good about hiding stuff. Maybe it's just as long as I don't show. All right, So here we are. I logged in, and it started off in the production mode. But so Stripe has its test mode and its live mode are the different ways, and they're all in the same database, so you can kind of test this stuff out directly in your account, which is a pretty cool setup. I've experienced a number of setups with vendors. This is one of the better ones. There's some really crappy setups out there. I like this particular one. And it's easy to toggle back and forth between them. I won't be clicking this button tonight, but you can imagine that in the future, that's where I would go to look at my actual customers. Okay, so we need to ultimately to have a price, which means we need to back into this and have a product, I believe. Now, Abe, your comment earlier about like what could we do with embedding? This is the only scenario where I think embedding might be cool. Like if we built a pricing table. Like I did that manually with School Desk, and it was cool. Or to do it once, but like if Stripe can handle more of that stuff, that'd be awesome. And maybe they can do it still with the redirect. I don't know how though. So where do we need to go? I don't remember. We don't. Okay. First thing I need to do, last time I did this, I wanted to poke around with things, and Stripe was mad at me or the API was mad at me because I didn't have valid keys, so I took from School Desk. So very first thing I want to do is update and pull these keys. I think even though they're test keys, I'm still gonna put it on secrets mode. Like the publishable key, I have no qualm showing y'all, but I'm gonna take the secret key and hide that for a minute. Let's copy this. Where am I going? I'm going to the env file. That's where I'm going. So here's my env file. Go back to secrets for a second, opening the env file, and what, did I not put it in here? Oh, DJ, there's the webhook. I could have sworn I put it in here. Oh, it's in the database. Forgot about that. We have stuff where they put this stuff in the database now. Okay. So, I guess it's safe to bring this back for a minute. Let me get up to the database, and then I'll switch it back over. So I've still just copied the publishable key. God, man, that'll be annoying anytime I need to clear my dev environment. There are times where I periodically will like just drop the whole SQLite database table. There's like a bootstrapping problem, right? Like, because you can't pull the models until you have the keys. And some of the keys could be stored in those database tables, but they won't be until you've set the key to be able to access it. Okay. Problem for a different day. Let's go to localhost. And we've got port 5000. Token is just the token that I've mock token on my production environment. That's a big UUID, and this should be Matt, I think, at create course. Hey, I got it right this time. Only took me about 10 times to get it right. All right, here's where I'm going to go back to. I'm going to click this APIs key in DJ Stripe and put in the new publishable key. I'm clicking API keys. There is listed currently a test publishable key. Just do a SQL update command. Yeah, I think I could, John. You're right. I'm going to delete this publishable key. There's an existing publishable key. Like I said, that's from my that is from my SchoolDesk account. So I'm going to add another key. I'm going to call this the test publishable key. Use the same name, and I'm going to paste in the secret that I got. And immediately it knows it's not for live mode. There are other attributes about it. Which it's not showing. Oh, there it is. It's showing a publishable key type. I have to describe this behavior because I can't show you. So the other thing I'm going to do is go back to the Stripe dashboard. There was a secret key as well, which I'm also going to copy and put it in here because we're going to need the secret key is going to be needed for the gateway. So I'm going back to the API key screen, I'm adding a key, and I'm going to name this one test secret key, and I'm going to paste in the secret key, save that. So, wow, that one didn't actually take the name. What? I totally gave it a name. Optional name, test secret key. I don't know why I didn't take it, because right now it's like on my admin page, it's showing secret key. And all right, I think I can bring this up. There's nothing sensitive on here. Okay, so here we are. We've got our two keys here. We can see that not only have I got the name that they're test, but we also have the flag over here showing it's not live mode. I don't know why this publishable key did not have this DJ Stripe owner account association. I'm not sure. Don't know what that's about. But now we have our two keys. And when we go to implement the create checkout session, we'll use this key as part of the session create process, I'm sure. Okay. So if we go back to the site, we're still going to get the price isn't there. Price doesn't match, not surprising. So I think we're ready to run. How's it going to pick which key to run? Like, because you could, in theory, add multiple keys. Like, maybe it's going to do it off the active? I'm just confused about what will happen. Do you have to list the API key? Specify the API keys you would like to perform this sync for. So maybe if you have more, it will just do it all? I don't know, man. Let's just hit go, see what happens. See what it automatically pulls. And then we'll go do it again and see how we'll get. Hopefully it's not dumping out a bunch of secrets in this list. That would be that would defeat the whole purpose of me using the secret screen. So you can see it's pulling quite a lot of data. So there's Abe, your question earlier, I don't know if you're still around, Abe, but like, why do you use DJ Stripe? You could get a lot of useful information here. Now, I don't know that I need all of this. In fact, I don't know what I would use this for, frankly. Country specs. Okay. But here we are. Like, we can sort of scan, like it's got the complaining about a publishable key. All right, so it's just, that's dumb. That feels like something that should be not part of their process of, if it knows it's a publishable key, don't query for that. Just skip it. Maybe there are things you can get with a publishable key and things you can't. But I'm seeing a lot of no results. Here's an account. Cool. I think what we need to do to get a price, I think we need a product. And I think we need a price. I think that's how that works. Payouts, price, refunds, coupons, invoice. It just kind of keeps going on. Or is it a plan? Ugh, gross. I don't remember. Phooey. Transfers, verification, order, source. All right. Interesting. And that's complaining about things that, like, this is a weird pull. Like, some of the stuff is not a model. So, seems like this command could stand to be improved in what it's doing or what it's attempting to pull. All right. Well, anyway, we've got our path there. Let's go back to Stripe. Let's poke around, see if we can figure out what it is we need to actually build. So I would assume we're going to set up subscriptions, and maybe there's guidance on what we need. Oh boy. Let's read this together because it's been a couple of years since I did this. Streamline your billing workflows. Set up and manage your billing operations to capture more revenue and accept recurring payments globally. Choose your pricing model. Good, better, best. Okay. Usage-based, seat-based. We're not going to be seat-based. It's going to be like one person. It's not usage-based. And we're not offering varying tiers of quality of service. We're really doing a time-based. So I think we fall into this other pricing model, but before we do that, I'm not sure if like these just follow on. This might be like a series. Okay. Let's make sure we read through this before going on. Choose how to offer subscriptions. Embed a pricing table. Pre-built components, custom UI. There it is. Low code. Offer subscriptions on your website with checkout integration. I don't know that we need to read that. Set up a customer portal. Okay. And import existing subscriptions. Okay. We've got creating a test subscription, which hopefully we'll be able to do. What are these? Test clocks. What does that mean? Oh, you can do simulations. Whoa, fancy pants. What? Okay. I'm not ready for whatever this is. I have no idea why I would want to do this. Maybe they let you like march through the events and make sure I could see the value of this. If you want to check out, let's say you want to do the whole flow. You want to do, I've got a trial. I create a trial. I do a scenario where the trial expires and we advance the time and set up the webhooks. That could be cool. I'm not going to do that right now, but that could be cool. All right, so let's do other pricing models. Let's take them in documentation. All right. Flat rate. How long is this page? Boy. Like, at least we can know we're not going to read a bunch of this. I just want to know which ones we do have to read. Like, maybe we have to read multiple prices? All right, let's start from the top. Because this is most likely the thing we need. Here we go. Okay, we want, like, good. We want one tier. Just looking at this structure, I think this tells us what we need. We need a product, which we can call it basic. I don't care. And then we need one price. We need two objects. Let's read this paragraph though to make sure. The pricing models are patterns that represent your business on Stripe. With product and price objects, you can model what you sell and how you charge for it. So flat rate. Many SaaS businesses offer their customers a choice of escalating service options. This flat rate pricing model is called good, better, best. Customers choose a service tier, good, better, or best, and pay a flat rate. Imagine a business called Together. Like, I don't know, how am I supposed to say that? Together? Okay. It sells a collaboration platform. They offer 3 different service levels: basic, starter, and enterprise. For each service level, they offer a monthly and yearly price. Operates in several countries, so they have prices in multiple currencies. Okay, hoping that Stripe just manages that for us, that I can say the price is going to be, I think I wanted at $5 USD per month, and let Stripe figure out the rest. That's part of what I'm paying Stripe for. So if you are in Great Britain, you're in New Zealand, you're in, I don't know, Morocco, like that, you could get something in your own currency. Both prices are for the basic product. They share the same product. So the nice part about this method with checkout is that the tiering relationship is by just specifying the price ID, it already will pull, Stripe will know about the product that's attached to it. And I don't know that I think the name will show up here, so I don't want to call it basic. If there's only one thing, it doesn't make sense to call it basic. So I don't know, maybe I'll call it subscription. I'm not sure what I'll name it. I think this is going to be pretty straightforward though. Let's just assume we can do a product and then a price. So we've got our model. Oh, okay. I'm going to click the call to action button. Create pricing. So different pricing models listed here. What is this? I think we just want standard. What's a product? Products are the goods or services you might sell. If you sell subscriptions, you might call them plans. Okay. Product names are visible to customers at checkout. So that's why we need to care about this. What if we just call it plan? Is that going to annoy people? Subscription plan? The most obvious thing to me. I don't know that I need to give a subscription, a description to something that's called the subscription plan. If you've signed up, I would really hope that you know what you've signed up for. Product tax code. This will be used for calculating automatic tax. Website information service. Okay, this is important. When I filled this process out this past week, or 2 weeks ago now, this is the thing that I had to specify what kind of business I was. So if I was actually selling online goods and services, you could pick something, physical products or whatever you felt like matched your business, and that's how they'll determine your taxes, or what taxes are applicable. Statement descriptor. Okay, so I'm going to leave it as the default. Unit label. No, it's fine. Metadata. I don't know that I need that. I don't know that I need features. Describe different features or aspects of your product with a line-by-line breakdown. Now, okay, we can go through this process, and if my page, my call to action on Journey Inbox is clear enough, then I don't think that we would need the checkout page to show more. It's like, I've already sold you on what you're getting. You're just now going through the flow of, here's the Stripe information, put in your credit card. I want that to be as simple as possible. Okay. Standard model, include tax in the price. Defines if the price uses the default. Okay. So we'll leave it at auto. And this price will not include tax. So good question, John. I think we should revisit what the label will be. Because what I don't want to do is name the product monthly. Because, actually, that's really important. That the product is not, the price is the thing that's going to be monthly or annual. And the product is the product. The product is the plan. So I don't think we need to specify that in the name right now. And that'll just be evident in the checkout flow. We'll verify that, but that's what I'm thinking. So $5. Oh, cool. It's giving me an example here. 6% sales tax. Why is there an info thing? No tax is collected either because you are not registered to collect tax in this jurisdiction or because non-taxable product tax code. Okay. Cool. It's recurring. I think, what does this mean? This is a suggested price based on today's. Okay, so I'm going to try and leave it at USD. I hope this doesn't mean that I have to specify all the currencies I want to accept. I was hoping that, I'm guessing this is for like, what is it called? There's a term where, like, maybe you have folks in a country that doesn't have the same purchasing power, and you want to offer a reduced cost for that country. I'm guessing that's what this is for, where you need to offer different prices based off of the purchasing power of the country. I think that's more complicated than I want to get into right now. I'm just going to offer a flat $5 USD and then have everybody else in their different countries do exchanges into that, however that works. All right, the billing period is monthly. Metered billing lets you charge customers based on reported usage. No, I don't want to do this. And this is the default price. Yep. Okay. Price description. Price description. Ooh, free trial is legacy. Oh, okay. We got to figure this out about trials later too. Maybe we don't need to set it out right away. Which this makes sense. Like, I can control trials in my system, and I think this might be what I did for School Desk, where a customer wasn't created until they went to the checkout session. Then it was factored in, but I don't remember. Okay. Price description. They're not customer facing. Okay, so one of these things is like the nickname. Use lookup keys to make future price. Lookup keys should be unique across all prices. Yeah, we need one of these things, and I think this might be the thing. Like, because we have to remember, we created a nickname thing on the other side. I don't know what it maps to anymore on Stripe. I'm going to assume it's here. So I'm going to call this monthly V1, which matches our nickname on the other side. And then I'm going to click this free trial. So let's read this setting though. Setting a default trial period per price is no longer recommended and is incompatible with checkout. End quotes. Okay, we're going to use checkout. This is new. I don't know why it's incompatible. Free trials can be set per subscription or quote instead. Okay, let's look at homeschool for a second. Did I set this? Okay. This is making a little bit more sense now. So it looks like the way that I set this. Okay. All right. I get it. So the reason this exists is like I knew the end date of the trial for the account. And that was like, I don't know, for this one it was like 30 days after sign up. And so this is checking out when are you going to check out? And if you go to the checkout page and you sign up, you should still be eligible for that trial. So like let's say, okay, here's the scenario. You sign up for Journey Inbox. I tell you you have 2 weeks. You get through week 1. You're happy with the product. You want to sign up and start paying for it and continue using it. The crappy experience would be you sign up and you don't get that extra week of trial. Like I bill you right then, or I start your subscription right then and don't give you the full week. That's what this is trying to do. It's trying to say like, we know when your trial is supposed to end, and we're trying to honor the remainder of your trial before we kick off the billing. So I think this is a refinement. I'm going to write this down. I'm going to say like, we don't need to set this up right away, but it is something that we want to set up long term. All right. Set I'll call it graceful trial handling. And we want to say set the subscription data so that the remainder of a trial is honored at checkout rather than starting the subscription right away. That's what we care about. Don't have to solve this for this again. Well, maybe not again. I haven't mentioned it this whole stream. All of the stuff that we're doing right now is all in service of we need a minimal amount of stuff in order to make the service go live. Like I want to have the ability for somebody to sign up. Like if they get in that trial mode, there has to be some way that they have an on-ramp to sign up. They can continue to use the service. And you know, there's hopefully people would be a little gracious if it's not the best experience. First sign up there, we could come back through, and anybody that basically knows about the service is probably going to be somebody watching the stream or somebody that I would very clearly communicate to some of the limitations. We start to market the site, if I start to market it on like Twitter and stuff. Otherwise, we're going towards this particular milestone. We got to get through these things. There's a bunch of gates that we have to get through, and Stripe integration happens to be the biggest of these gates. All right, I'm almost out of tea, so I'm probably almost out of time too. Okay, so we've got our price, monthly price, which I think is a reasonable amount. I think we can save our product. It's called subscription plan. Ooh, that's nice. There's a copy to live mode. There's the pricing on it. Here's the price instance. Let's try and run our sync command again. I don't want to run the whole thing. I'd like to run just for those tables that we just added. So we should be able to list the model name. So if we do product and price, will that do what we want? Oh, cool. And there it is, our subscription plan. Excellent. So with any luck, we should be able to fire up the web server. That's going. Let's go back to our page and refresh this. Oh, come on. Boo. All right, what do we do wrong? Let's go to the shell, poke around. No, let's go manage shell plus. I would have expected a price that we could have pulled, so where's the price? DJ Stripe. Probably brought in, yeah, there's price. Price.objects.count. There's one, okay, so there's a price, so maybe it just didn't match the state that we have on, we're pulling from on the server. So let's get the price. So price, nope, price objects. Come on, Matt, you can type. First, and let's inspect the properties that it had. So live mode, false, which should match to our current Stripe live mode. Go to our settings, Stripe live mode. Okay, that's set to true by default, but I think the env file has it false. I can confirm. Sorry, 1 second. Go back to the secrets. I'm looking at Stripe live mode, set to off, so that's good. Let me get back to a reasonable place. Okay, so that's good. What else would have been the price? So we've got our price. Oh, I bet it's all right. I bet we got the nickname wrong. P nickname, nothing. Ah, boogers. What are the other attributes here on the price? Oh boy. Where did it go? What do we call it on Stripe? What was the name of that thing? It was a oh, come on. We had some. There's the lookup key. Do they not have? Is there something called lookup key on price? Oh, there it is. Oh, okay. Do they not use nickname anymore? I mean, I'm fine with changing it to lookup key. That's fine. I'm just a little surprised. Seems like that's what they want you to call it. Pricing. Yada yada yada. Price trial subscription. Edit. I'm just looking for you. Where would I even put this in? Maybe it's price description was the nickname. I don't know. I don't know what that mapped to. All right, let's go change it to lookup key. That's fine. We've got nickname and we want lookup key. This makes more sense anyway, and I didn't really like nickname. Then we're here is going to be lookup key. Oh, lookup key. Lookup key. Right? Yep. Then we need the factory didn't use that, did it? Good. Okay. So down here we need change this to nickname. We'll go to lookup key. And oh, come on. Lookup. Actually, I guess I could have done this differently. Nope. There we go. Like something I rarely use in Vim because it's rarely useful, but if you have something highlighted, like a word, you can use, so I'm in visual mode, you can use capital U to uppercase everything. I think you can also use lowercase u to lowercase stuff. It's a really weird, very infrequently used feature of this. All right, let me run those tests. Those tests are passing. All right, so now we should be able to get the right price because our price property is using with the lookup key instead. Let's go over here. Hey, cool. I want to look at the page source. So this is neat. All of our code is there. Here's the price. Let's put there. Publishable key. I'm not. This is okay to share for publicly. John, that is a fantastic question. I wonder if I'm like missing out on subscriptions. I would assume not. I would assume that because my assumption is that Stripe is not going to change the price object I have. That would be weird. And it could be that that thing that they marked as product description, maybe that's the nickname because it kind of indicated like internal thing. Can I go check here? Let me go check that. I would love to get confirmation of what this is. So I'm going to put this back on secrets for a minute because I don't know if this is going to switch me into test mode on School Desk. So I'm switching accounts from, okay. Looks like I'm all good here. We're now on the School Desk side. We're still in test mode. We should be able to go to subscriptions. Nope. Not subscriptions. Products catalog. Where do we go? Okay, so I called it School Desk Plan on this one. Created these quite a long time ago. And there it is, monthly V1. But what is that thing? If I were to edit it, yeah, there it is. So the price description matches to nickname. And I can understand why they split these up. So one is like, because you might have like a marketing team or something, or some team, like a go-to-market team that is concerned about prices and having clear names. And this is very programmery to call it month V1. Like that'd be super weird. So you could have one for each. So I think it's safe to say that School Desk is safe because it's doing its lookup based off this. All right. Good. Had me worried a little bit there for a moment, but I think we're okay. And we'll switch back to Journey Inbox. And this is the product catalog. So subscription plan, $5 a month, some kind of tax code thing. And when we saw in our source lookup that it's got the price ID, and so this will flow like this. So here's the price ID, the price variable is here. When we click the activate button, it's going to call this event handler. It's going to call the function. It's going to pass in this price ID right there. And then in theory, we'd go to the session thing. So we can click this right now, but we have not implemented the session yet. But we're getting pretty darn close. So let's bring this up because we will get a response back, but it's going to be a fake session ID, and Stripe's probably going to be like, what are you talking about? So I'm going to click the button. What did it say? Yeah. Invalid value for session ID. You specified session ID. Our logic, everything is understood. That's cool. All right. How much time do we have? I don't know that I have enough in me to go all the way through with this, which is too bad. I'll keep going a little bit, but let's see if I run out of gas. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be committing this tonight. I don't think I have it in me to get all the way to like testing everything. Yeah, that would just be like a marathon session. So this is why it failed, because we have a hard-coded session ID. We need to follow, like some of this over here, we need to pass in some paths to go back to, some URLs. So there's like a bunch of things that we don't have. There are these things that we do care about, like we care about, although I'm interested, we should explore what other payment method types there could be. Like, I don't care if somebody uses a card versus Apple Pay versus whatever, that doesn't bother me. And then the client reference ID is important for connecting the I think that what happens with that is it gets attached. Like, I use this somewhere else in homeschool. So we have the client reference ID, which is the account ID, and then on the webhook side, so after the session is completed, so you've completed checkout, the user is going to get redirected back to your site to the success URL, whatever you specify. What's going to happen in the background is Stripe will fire off an event, and it's this event, checkout session completed. The only way to like activate the account is you have to use some kind of reference to tie it back together. So there's some symmetry here of the session says, like, here's the user ID that's going to go with the account that you're going to store with the session creation process. And then when the webhook fires, you can look up that piece of data to pull back the account that's related, and then make the appropriate change here. So that's the same thing that we'll be able to do in our setup. So I think what I'm going to do is steal this code and then delete a bunch of stuff. I don't know that I'm going to do this the same way on a certain aspect or two of this. We'll see. Let's just paste it all in here first. All right. So right off the top, we have the site framework here. Site is where'd it go? Site. Why can I not see the import? There it is. Site is one of the contrib packages that allows. It's used for. I guess it's intended for. There's probably some Django history here of the original use case for Django was at a newspaper. Well, it was in Lawrence, Kansas, I believe. And I think there was need to support multiple domains. Don't know why. I think that's the case. And the site system is kind of that idea that we can make a single app, single Django, or app's not the right term, single Django project, and we can use the site framework to serve both multiple domains at once. I don't know why you'd do that today. Maybe there's still cases out there that makes sense. But the way that it can be used is as a storage for like your domain. So the way that I built these things together is Stripe doesn't know what the domain is. So if I just did a reverse like I did here, this is going to look like something like, I'll just put it right here. It would be something like some success URL, right? It'd be devoid. Yeah, multi-tenant apps. Yeah, that makes sense, John. It would be devoid of the domain to attach to it. So Stripe's not going to know where to go. And it doesn't just assume that you want to go back to the domain that you came from, because that would have to look up the referrer on their side. So they're like, no, you just tell us where we want to go. So I had to add in the stuff that made this, that had the HTTPS and the actual site, which in the case of homeschool was the schooldesk.app. I don't know that I want to do Well, maybe there's no other way to really get access to the domain quickly. So maybe that's why I did it. Because in some contexts you can do request, and request, a request can look up the domain it's on. It's one of the attributes of request. I think that's even in the example code. Success URL. Where do they have it? Here we go. So request has this build absolute URI thing that can take in a path. We're in a gateway though, so we don't have access to the request. So maybe that's probably why I didn't do it that way. I didn't want to like leak. It's a shortcut. It's a convenient shortcut of saying, well, let's just use the request that we have in the HTTP. But it does leak through the idea of now your gateway knows about the context it's being executed in. So yes, John, that is what I did. So the way I configured this is I used the site framework. Site framework works by by setting up some amount of configuration. So if we look at the settings file, wrong file, sorry. Settings, and we go to site, somewhere, here it is. So this is all that was needed, but again, it was one more thing I had to configure in the database, saying like the session, or like if I pulled this up, it would be, you'd see one row in the table that is the schooldesk.app. All right, maybe a totally reasonable thing to do. We could just do that here. I think I'm sweating the details too much on that. So let's pretend like we're going to use the same thing. So which means we need from Django contrib sites models import site. All right, to do that, we're going to need it in the installed apps, but it already is. I don't know why I don't know if one of these other apps needs it, or if no, it was the addition of allauth, I think, that said it needed it. Yeah, it was a dependency for Django allauth, so we already have it anyway. So it's not a bad thing to add it. We just need to populate a value in there. And actually, it makes me question: does, like, if we could bring up the admin, did allauth already populate something in there? Oh, come on. So the sites framework should be at the bottom. It did. So there was one pre-populated, and we would come in here and we would say, instead of domain and display name, we'd say journeyin.box.com. So it's a small bit of configuration, but it's one more thing to configure. But we will do a full end-to-end test on this, and it'll be a one-time setup, which is not bad. So we can use that. I'm going to punt on the problem on some of these issues right now. Like I think we can get away with commenting these things out and just trying. What I'm trying to get to, like, to finish the stream, would be, can we see a session? Like, get launched into a session. That would be best case. So we're really close. Just sort of hacking together little bits and bobs. Take out the trial stuff. We'll get that later. And we need Stripe. Import Stripe. Come on. How about we do this? we say we'll leave these, but delete the. So they're going to be junk URLs, but that's fine. Stripe won't know or care. What baloney is that? Of course you can. Stripe, the user has an ID. Come on. Pyrite is dumb sometimes. It doesn't know enough about Django. Okay. So I think these are all, oops, we don't need these extra ones now. We have the price ID that we're going to get. We've wired that through. So that feels good. Ooh. I think this may not work because we remember, okay, last time we talked about the fact that because we don't have the API key as a setting, comes from the database, it affected when we could set the API key for Stripe. So the API keys that we want to use is only available as data in the database. So like if we look back at the gateway on Homeschool, it's different. It's a different setup. So if I go back to the gateway, you can see the API key has been set up at the top here. So we need to get the key separately to get the right secret key. Which means basically need an attribute. And I remember the thing that we looked up was when we make the API calls, how could we do this without setting it at the module level and without having it be some like side effect of creation of a gateway? Like you could, one universe would be when we create the gateway, we do something like, I don't know, I'll show it. I don't want to do it. Something like this where we do stripe.api key at this time, and then we call from the database here. Maybe I don't feel as bad about that. What feels not great about it is every time we create a gateway, it would be setting module level state. So if you had potentially multiple users, I mean, it should always result in the same value, but it feels sort of gross. So I think what I would rather do is the other thing that was shown was like in these API calls, you can also pass the API key as a parameter here. So the API key, right? And that this should work. What's going on? Oh, okay. I can't put it after the splat there. Hold on. It's gotta go. Oh, what did it do? No, stop. So API key, I let it auto-populate and that was wrong. Then the API key, and we've got this. So like this. But we need to have, we want to have on the gateway, so we could do another property here. That's like one more property. We would do just like publishable key. We're going to take this and we'll change it to secret key. And the type is going to go secret instead. We're going to base it on the live mode, and we're going to take out the secret. So now we can do down here, API key is self.secret key. You need that secret key to make the right call. So In theory, that's everything we need for the session. Let's try it. Maybe it blows up. Maybe it works. I don't know. Refresh this page, although I don't think I needed to. Still got the price, still got the publishable key, so that's all good. It's got a CSRF token that's valid. And it should get a valid session ID. We should be able to watch the network calls and see it go through. Let's click this. Oh, hey. I don't know why it says Matthew Lehman there. There's some configuration we have to do clearly. All right, cool. I'm not going to trace through all those API calls. There's a bunch of them that came through. I think the ones we could or should trace through are, we could look at the post. So this was our post to create a checkout session. We sent, in our request, we sent the price as JSON, we sent the price ID. And that ultimately called into the gateway. Gateway put together a session. The response we got back was more JSON with this is CS must be checkout session. It's a test type, and there's the ID. That was handled by our JavaScript code, and we called it with the JavaScript Stripe API, and then all the other stuff following that happened, and we got redirected here. You can see, okay, let's talk about this page now. So I think we're done with the network calls. So there's two paths here. This back arrow is going to correspond to that cancel URL. Right now it just says, well, we should distinguish this so you could see it differently, but it's okay. So the back says journeyinbox.com. I don't know, that's where we want to send people back to, but where we could in the future. If you fill out all this information, which is only specified for cards, so we still need to check out on the payment type thing. Let's leave it to do here. To do. Should we accept other payment methods? I don't know. Very reasonable. It's pre-populated with the email, and they can't change it. That's good. They put in their card information. They put in everything that Stripe wants you to. I don't know what link is, but anyway, this is on Stripe's side. This is all Stripe land now. Once you filled all of that out, the subscribe button, if everything worked well, would then redirect back to the success URL. That's the flow. So I feel pretty good about this. We've done a lot. I don't know. I want to commit because I'm not going to get to this for a while. I've got a meetup next week and a bunch of stuff here. The question is, do I commit in a broken state and just like let us be like, this is our pickup point? Yeah, that's probably right. So we picked, okay, going through here, let's wrap this up. We need the webhook still. We do need to write the tests. Let's see, we need to do full end-to-end integration test. We need I want to be able to cancel. I want to be able to like click all the buttons and see through. Like Stripe has test credit cards that you can use. I think it's 4242, like just repeated. But you can test that whole flow and do it synthetically. see the subscription get created, all that good stuff. I think, did we do this? What happens when the user clicks call to action? Launch into Stripe with checkout session. Yep. And so I think we accomplished this, like the main thing. Oh, you're right. We need to set the URLs. So we need to set success and cancel URLs. So we got to make decisions of where do we want to go, and are those custom pages? Are they, or because if I came back, let's say, well, it could be reasonable for somebody to come back and come to the page that says like, no, I wasn't ready, and then just end up right back on the homepage, because the homepage is where we're going to have this activate button, right? Or the top level index page. The success page, though, I want to give them some kind of indication. And what we can't do, like in a lot of the Django flows, like if you're on a Django form, you can do a flash message where something will appear at the top. But Stripe will not be able to do that. So I want to have a dedicated success page of "We gotcha, it worked," or "Thanks for joining," like some kind of page for that. So that's going to be a little bit of extra work there. So I guess we can't really do, I can't do the integration test until, so it's like purely from a sequencing point of view, we need this to be like this. So this is like the final step. What do we do with trial? We have an issue for trials. So I don't know, trials will be handled with a different issue. I'm going to mark this one done. And we do need we need to see the state, the webhook complete. I'm going to move that up here. In fact, I can probably get rid of this. This is like an arbitrary distinction before we knew what we were doing more of. So throw that up, these things up there. We're working down our list. Okay. And all right, okay. I don't feel comfortable committing to main with broken tests. I can't bring myself to do it. But we have a way around this. Let's create a branch. So we'll say Stripe is the branch. All right, we gotta get pre-commit going because we merged that thing earlier. That should just take a second. Oh, shut up. In the test 106. What was it? Test gateway? What line? 14. No QA? Is that one? That should do it. Wrong place. Okay. Complete initial checkout flow. Broken tests. Yuck. And this will be for number 7. And then hopefully I have hub installed. Oh, crap. No hub. Oh, man. It means I need to remember how to push up a branch. Anybody help me out? Git push. Origin. Stripe. Is that it? That puts that up here. And if I go to code, it should tell me to create a PR, right? Okay, good. Gosh, it has been a long time since I've done that. I usually normally use a tool called Hub, and Hub gives you like utility commands for wrapping up some of these flows. Like it would give me the opportunity to create a pull request from the command line, set the description, and hit go all in once, and like copy the URL so that I can look at it in my browser. I don't have that installed apparently, so I need to install that. That's going to fail, but this gives us a nice little place where we can keep it aside from the main branch. CS Python, I don't understand what you're asking. Expect me to create a full e-commerce site. Cool. If that's what you're working on, good on you. Okay, so next time, which will not be next week, I have a meetup next week, so I won't be able to join y'all. But we will first start. Well, we'll just get right back to this list. We'll write our tests, get our coverage. We'll get back to this healthy state, and then we'll knock down through these things. And we want to end with the full integration test that gets us to a completed Stripe flow. There's also an aspect of this where I need to do more, or we probably need to, after that's done, do a deploy to production, because I think that the delta of what needs to be configured is starting to grow, and I don't want to miss anything. So I think with this thing, I may also need to write down some steps of what am I configuring that it's going to be manual, because Stripe API keys, that's one of these things. And the site stuff, like things that if I had to redo it again on a different service, I would have to remember to make the site operational, and it would be unfortunate if I forgot them. So we'll do that before we move on to these other pieces. Yeah, I think that's it. All right, y'all. Thank you very much for sticking with me through. Wow, gosh, this was a long one. Almost 3 hours tonight. A lot of heavy stuff in Stripe. Hopefully, you learned something along the way. I appreciate the chat and all the questions that was really good. And I will catch you in the future. If you want to, I would appreciate like, subscribe, all that goodness. If you want to support me, you can. I've got subscription options here on YouTube. I've also got subscription options on Patreon if you'd like to, if that's more your thing. And I'll catch you next time. Take care.